In this episode of Let's Talk.
Has God already told us something that we haven't done? And we're like, God, where are you? I can't hear you. But maybe God already talked to you.
There's not like a formula of like, okay, I do this, and then God blesses me or gives me the promise that I've been waiting for. God is going to ask different things of us in different times for different promises.
So He'll use all those different experiences of waiting on Him. But it's all because what He wants is us and our heart.
The one thing that I know for sure, right, going through our experience, is that the promise of God will come. Okay, sound speed. I can't rep everything that's going on at Canaan any harder. You know, I'm Dante from Church Boys, repping Resurrected, filming a video for Let's Talk. Right after finishing Canaan, Hay Esperanza on Saturdays. Come through to the program if you've never been here. We're currently setting up baptisms for this Sunday. Everything at the church. I am the church.
You're building the church.
Oof. Dang, great content. We're building the church by being the church. I feel like this is all good content right now, what we're doing. All right, cool. So let's enter this video. Some music. Let's talk. If I was editing the video, this is exactly what you should do. Hey guys, welcome to another Let's Talk video. If this is your first one, my name is Dante, and this is my wife,
Melo.
Today we're bringing a very interesting topic to wrap up this season of building the church. Something that we experienced a lot in our lives, which sometimes is great, but a lot of times it sucks. It's called waiting. It's a process that we've had to go through in our relationship and in many things of our lives. But it's something that I think we should all talk about because it's important. All right, so let's get started and let's talk. Waiting to me is the process of getting to where you want to go, right? Of what God has for you. We're a generation that is kind of used to having everything quick. Right. You know, I've read like articles before that say that like we're like the microwave generation. Right? You press a button, and boom, instant. There's like minute rice and stuff like that. Amazon Prime, you order a thing, it's at your doorstep the next day. Amazon Fresh, you order groceries, they're in your doorstep within hours. So we're a generation that's used to getting things fairly quickly and things happening in the right now. So for me, waiting is a process where we are strengthening ourselves and stretching our limits in order to see what God has for us and preparing ourselves for what God has in store for us, right? Because like the things that are most important in our lives are going to take time, not only like because, it's being prepared, but we're also preparing ourselves to receive what's coming, right? Like, what good is it to have a Ferrari when you're 13 years old? You can't drive it, right? But you go through a process of preparing yourself to learn how to drive and all that stuff, and then maybe a Ferrari's fun, right? But you can't do anything with it when you're 13.
Right. I guess I think of waiting, and I think a lot about that process part. A lot of what goes on. It reminded me of this class I remember in our life when I was teaching. And I think there's a lot that goes on during the waiting. I mean, obviously, I think as we start talking about like us waiting in our relationship, okay, we were waiting to get married, but there's more waiting within the waiting. Like we were waiting to get married, but then we're also waiting for God to do a miracle, waiting to get better ourselves, like to work on ourselves, waiting. There's a lot that happens in the waiting. So I just think waiting, and I think of our process. I think of my relationship with God. It's that period where you're getting to know yourself, you're learning, I don't know. I think of a lot of things when I think of waiting and what it means to me in my life.
Like you're saying, in our like waiting to get into our marriage is where it was most represented into our lives, which I guess we could talk about that a little bit now of our process. I'll talk about my side and then you can talk about yours. To share a little bit of background, right? Me and Melissa dated for 6.5 years before we got married, which is way too long if you're wondering. If you're wondering what that feels like time-wise. We went into our relationship with the idea of eventually getting married, right? We were friends for a year before we started dating. Then we started dating, but the intention was like, okay, if we're doing this, it's with the intention of getting married. Not that we were going to get married no matter what, because obviously like we had to go through the process of getting to know each other and see if we were compatible and if we really like vibe with each other and fit in together. We were in a relationship for 6.5 years. After maybe 2 or 3 years, we started trying to like plan a marriage. We had some issues with your parents where they didn't really approve of our relationship at all. Yeah. Not just talking about marriage. Like obviously they didn't want us to get married if they didn't approve of our relationship, but they didn't approve of our relationship, so that caused some setbacks. But also looking back at it now, like we truly weren't ready to get married at that place originally. Financially, emotionally, spiritually. So thank God it happened the way it did, right? And I think it goes to show that God always knows exactly what he's doing and how long he makes you wait for a reason. Because from where we started to where the point where we got married, we really got as ready as we could at the point where we got married. We had been through our process here at Canaan of working on ourselves and healing emotionally from all the wounds. Thank God now, we all have a good relationship and we really are like family. Like they welcomed me into your family and they became part of our family, with also my side and everything. But that wouldn't have happened without all that waiting.
I think it's cool hearing you talk about like in the waiting there was a lot of work that needed to be done and a lot of working that we did individually and together. I think in that waiting, that's that part of doing. Like there's things we need to actively be doing. You said at a point we got to Canaan and we were doing our process and but then also there was a lot of internal with God, right? And like questioning and doubts and a lot of needing to have a very tight relationship and close relationship with God in order to feel, okay, I'm doing this, but I know, like I trust what you're gonna do and I'm putting in the work on regardless of the result. Where our heart is very important, right? Because we could do things like, okay, I'll do this for now to get there. In that waiting, if you can't trust God and have that faith, like I could only imagine it being way harder, right? Even like, okay, like God, what do you want me to do? And I'll do. And then like we would get little steps and little moments. Like it makes me think of like when we got engaged and my dad was there and okay, he was like, wow, I didn't think he would be here. But then like him coming after telling me I wouldn't have missed it, it's like, okay, like that reassuring, right? There's hope. But then even after that happened, we would go back some steps, like in the whole planning. And I think that like in the waiting, it's like a roller coaster of things happening because you could move forward and then things happen that you could get discouraged of like, okay, it's also kind of like you meet God halfway, like, okay, I'm going to do everything in my part. Like whatever you're telling me I have to do, I'll do it. And then he takes care of that other 50%.
Right, the impossible.
Right.
We do the possible
and
then he does the impossible. And it's crazy how the promise that God gave you after all the waiting can like come overnight, like from one day to the other, right? Which is what we experienced with your dad. Less than a month before our wedding, I had a conversation with your dad where he was still telling me, I hope you guys don't get married. I hope something happens and that the wedding doesn't happen. And then the day of the wedding, he like completely changed. And the day after we got married, we ended up at your parents' house. So we were there picking up your stuff and we had like that conversation with them. And it felt like home for the first time at your house. It felt comfortable. It felt like I was welcomed, but that was literally from one day to the next. Like it was solidified the day of the wedding. There's ups and downs in the waiting. But the one thing that I know for sure, right, going through our experience and through other things that we've gone through in our life, is that the promise of God will come.
This experience is like I don't know if I already said it in the video or not, like as we were talking, but like it's like if God did this, like there's nothing else he can't do. Like it just creates that, it gives you that boost. And I think it's so important that we learn from that and like we remind ourselves of like what God has done in our lives. It's so important to see that because now we have that in other areas, in the things he promises for us, for our purpose, for who we are in him. In the waiting, my faith increases. I feel like it's definitely something that is internal, right? Like we went through this, like how am I gonna forget? Like you're a reminder every time I see you of it. And so it increases my faith in God and what he could do. Like every time we share the story, even within ourselves, like talking about it. So just talking about it, it's like, wow, like God, you did this. and it gives me hope in other areas that I might still be waiting for an answer. I think it's a lot about reminding ourselves in that process of having faith. I'm not the queen of faith, but like honestly, it's easier to me to like have that faith on God to do things even when it looks impossible to others, because of this experience. It's like a muscle that you you develop, and it's as long as you keep going, and we need to have faith on God every day. I mean, just that faith of like, hey, you're hearing me every morning when I'm talking to you. Like, it's you that is telling me that you love me, that I'm your daughter. I see that increasement in faith because you put in the work of like coming to him. And it's like, yeah, this happened, but I can't just like, okay, because of this, I'm just going to have faith always. Right. You work towards that too, and you maintain like through different situations.
Like exercise.
Right.
Right? It's like you're exercising, all in that waiting, and then like, let's say your goal was to lift a 90-pound weight, right? Then you lift that 90-pound weight, and then all right, your next goal is to like double it, 180. But it becomes easier. Like you did all that work, and every time now you have to lift something. You grab like a 60-pound box, and it weighs nothing to you now because like you got to that goal of like 90 pounds. So as challenges come, because of that waiting that you went through, things become easier, right? But there's also still bigger challenges ahead of you. So you have to keep working harder, but you have that evidence, like you said, that you can do it, right? Like, oh, I started at 20 pounds, I got all the way to 90. Who's to say I can't get to 180? If I did it, if I had a goal and I reached it, who's to say I can't get to the next one? Once you see God do something in your life, it kind of justifies you in the sense of like, okay, I'm not crazy. Because sometimes in that waiting, if that waiting is long, you feel like, okay, I'm hearing from God, but nothing's happening. I'm hearing from God, but nothing's happening. Like, okay, sometimes you're like, maybe I'm not hearing from God. Maybe I'm a crazy person. Maybe I'm hearing voices in my head. Maybe I just like, I want this too bad, like so much that I'm like lying to myself about it. But then it happens, and then it's like, okay, I know for a fact that God was speaking to me. The morning I was going to propose to you, remember we did like our journal at the beach. And in that journal, I was kind of expressing to God, like, God, how is this like, how are things between me and your parents ever going to be good? Like it seemed impossible. And God told me in that one, like, I'm going to change hearts. Like those are the words he spoke to me. And then the first Thanksgiving we spent together, right after we got married, your dad said that he felt that God changed his heart the moment we got married. Like in those specific words. And I think it's those things that where God shows you like, hey, I was speaking to you. Like I told you that was going to happen. And here it is. Like I'm not going to God doesn't leave any room for doubt when he does what he says he's going to do. And for me, all those little things that happen along the way can help me point back to that in anything I'm going through in life, Like right now, as I'm stepping more and more into ministry, right? It's a complete change of lifestyle for us. But we're having faith that God is going to provide everything that we need throughout this process. Because we've seen God do things in our lives throughout that time of waiting and seeing him do what he promised he was going to do. So we can give ourselves those testimonies and believe for new things, which I think is where we're at right now in our lives.
All God wants is us. Like he wants you and he wants me and he wants our relationship. So he'll use all those different experiences of waiting on him to trust him, to have faith on him, to be there, to show up. But it's all because what he wants is us and our heart and a relationship with us. So I think like it really does become about that relationship with God, with your Father. And then when things like, okay, this is taking longer, then it's kind of also, okay, what should I be doing? Right. What do I need to do? What's my part? What's that 50%? What's the possible that I should be doing and working on? Or where's my heart at with this? Is God already... It takes me to what you were talking the other day. Like, has God already told us something that we haven't done? And we're like, God, where are you? I can't hear you. But maybe God already talked to you and told you what to do. And you're asking for more and more and more. But you haven't done what he first asked you for. To answer, I guess, the first question now for me, like, waiting means my relationship with God. Like, it really does, because it's like everything ties there. Like, on trusting he's my Father, someone that I can't see, but I know he's there, that he will take care of me, that he will take care of us. Not just to say it, but I truly believe this in my core. Like, I know God will do anything for me, for us. Like, he could do it. Like, and it's cool because it's not just us. Then it takes us out of like our circle of like, okay, our family and our relationship. But it's also believing like that God will do something for someone else. Like when you hear someone in need for something in the church, like it's like how not to trust or believe that God's gonna do it. Like we're waiting, whether it is for growth, for God to bring resources, like he will do it. Like it's really like, okay, what should we be doing? Like our part, look inward, right?
Yeah.
Is that the word? And was I supposed to be doing something that I haven't? Should I go back with my relationship with God? Like, what am I not seeing? But then it's also like that side of like just trusting him that he's gonna do it. That's there. That's like check. Yeah. It's kind of about focusing on what are the other things I haven't done.
What should we be doing during the time of waiting?
I think sometimes if things are not moving forward in the waiting time, it's like, okay, stop. Not necessarily maybe do because sometimes we want to do everything in our strength, but before doing whatever we think it's the way out in that waiting period, I think it's go to the Father, like go to him, like, hey, I'm here. Like, I mean, to me it's just more simple saying it like that, literally like talking like, what's happening? I'm stuck. I feel stuck. I feel like we're not moving forward in this. Yeah. You promised me, if you already have a promise in that area. And I think there kind of, if I feel I'm not hearing from him, it's like, why do I feel I'm not hearing from him? Why is he not giving me instruction? Why do I feel this way? And look deeper into my relationship with God in that moment. Ask for help. Like I think if it and then to get, like ask for help, come to the source first, to then be able to move forward in doing whatever instruction I hear from him, or just keep moving forward and doing in the things that I know I should be doing. Yeah. You know, like working on yourself is something that regardless of where you are waiting on, you should be doing. Looking inward and like seeing where you are spiritually, emotionally, like just like loving yourself.
It comes from God what we should do in the waiting. It's not going to be the same for everybody, and it's not going to be the same in every situation. There's not like a formula of like, okay, I do this, and then God blesses me or gives me the promise that I've been waiting for. God is going to ask different things of us in different times for different promises, you know? And even maybe for the same promise, you have to go through a process of doing a lot of different things, you know? Like for our wedding, we paid for our wedding on our own. God asked me for a certain amount at a time, which was a pretty big sacrifice for me, and I didn't see like how it would be possible for me to give that and still pay for our wedding. But we paid for every part of our wedding, and we have no debt from that, you know? And we spent a good amount of money. You know, it was a beautiful event. That was a part of my waiting process, you know. So there are different things that God is going to ask us to do in the waiting, but that's something that we have to seek him for. When we begin to obey him, we begin to see the results, and we begin to see that promise begin to move forward, right? It's like we begin to see that seed grow and sprout plants and branches and get bigger and bigger and bigger until we see the fruit. But it's in those moments where we obey God and we learn to obey God. And that's our faith also helps us to like learn to obey, because we see that the more we obey him, the better our life gets. Like even when we hear God ask us for crazy things, it's like, okay, the last time I did a crazy thing, you also did a crazy thing for me. You completed this promise that I never thought could take place. You know, so you begin to walk in that. And surround yourself with people that are going to push you to see God. The relationships we surround ourselves with are also very important in that time of waiting. Because if we surround ourselves with the wrong people, they're going to tell us like, oh, you know what, it's not worth it. If they're people who are also seeking the will of God for their own lives and for you because they care for you and they love you, they know what it looks like, you know, and they know the same struggles. They've been through that waiting process as well if you're surrounding yourself with the right people. So it's also seeking God and making sure we're in the right relationships that will push us towards the first thing, right? It's 1, 2, C1. Like you go... It all has to point, everything in your life has to point you back to God. That's the key thing.
And I think that you're saying, it's like all of our experiences with God and our relationship, that's what built our church and churches and the community and who we are in God. And all of our experiences, we're able to, from there, like you're saying, help each other. That's the best possible way to like literally build the church.
That's good. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Let's Talk. check us out. YouTube, Instagram, on Fox News, on CNN. We're on
Univision, Telemundo.
Univision, Telemundo, HBO Max,
Disney Channel.
Netflix, Disney Plus, all your streaming services. Check us out. You know, just type in Let's Talk. And hopefully it's on YouTube because that's really the only place
The only
where
place
we're
it's
at.
gonna come out.
So, love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. And hope to see you all next season.
That was fun.
That was fun.
This is how we talk all the time. Our conversations always happen in our living room. We let's talk in the back.
If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Comment down below what your favorite part was. Any new questions that you might have. Share with everybody that you know. Your mom, your grandma, your brother, your sister, even the cat.